we're borderline where we shouldn't have been without a rifle. They're like, a polar bear could come over the ridge any moment and eat you. We're the only thing between him and this herd of your reindeer just walking around.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't run as fast as they do.
Well, that's why I took my friend with me. Now, I'm a little faster.
That's why I go everywhere with Doug.
I was going to say, that's what they say when you're diving. If you come across a shark, you just stab your buddy and swim off. So
Welcome to the Two Authors Podcast, an entertaining chat show hosted by best-selling mystery and thriller authors Douglas Pratt and Nicholas Harvey, in lively, humorous and informative conversation with distinguished guests who share their thoughts and experience about forging a successful author career.
Hello, and welcome everybody to the show. Thanks for being here. How are you doing, Doug?
I'm doing fabulous, sir. How are you?
I'm good, except as you could hear there, my voice catches still every moment. That freaking bronchitis crap that I had, it's a lingerer. It's like a piece of toilet paper on your shoe, man. You're like walking around all day with that thing stringing off the back.
You know, you could just take that off. You don't have to walk around with it all day on your shoe.
The toilet paper, maybe it wasn't the best analogy. This shit will not go away. It's driving me bananas. So RJ Patterson, super guy. We chatted with him at NINC recently. Great guy, and he's killing it out there in the author world. So excited to chat with him. We'll get to that in a minute. First of all, we have a listener question from Ken in North Carolina. Hey, Ken, I hope you're in the non-submerged part of North Carolina. And if you're not, all the best to you and all the best to those folks out there. As we're recording this, we have another hurricane. Milton's rattling its way. I'm in the Keys. It's going to give us a little backslap as it goes by. And boy, I'm thinking of everyone in St. Pete, Tampa area.
Oh man, yeah, the people in St. Pete and we've got friends. I mean, Jillian Dodd and Diane are down.
Feels so bad.
They both left and evacuated, but I mean, they've got places there. And
Nate flew out. Nate Van Coops flew out. Margaret buttoned up and bailed.
Heck, apparently, if you're on the show with us, then you're going to get hit by a hurricane.
You might get a hurricane.
So
yeah,
that
that's
might
a good
be
point.
Maybe we're a bad book or something for these people.
Yeah. Let's move on from that as well.
What's our question for the day?
What's our question?
Let's move on.
Ken in North Carolina came up with the question. We were there a minute ago, I think. His question is, do you prefer quiet or background noise / music to write by? You're a death metal guy, aren't you?
You know it. No.
I
actually
Stephen King.
I do like music, and I like a little background noise. I can write without it. I enjoy more of an ambient noise than something focused. I can kind of tune out most music, so it's just kind of playing without me.
Do you do like whale noises or?
Well, no, I like going places where there's just enough of a crowd that I can.
The strip joint. Exactly.
There's nothing more ambient than on the satellite stage.
Coming to stage 3.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. How about you, sir?
I guess I do have somewhat of a preference. I don't like a lot of noise. I don't like a lot of fuss and stuff going on. I find it hard. I'm like a golden retriever in the field through tennis balls flying around. So being in a coffee shop and stuff like that, unless it's really quiet and I can find a corner and there's not much going on, I'm really a squirrel head if there's things and movement and people around and stuff happening. So I like a bit of peace and quiet. Let's move on to our guests. So award-winning thriller author RJ Patterson is multiple espionage, military, and financial thrillers top the Amazon genre charts. He's also a smart guy and a very nice guy. So let's chat with RJ. RJ, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today, guys.
Where are you coming to us from? Idaho? Is that where you live?
Yeah, Boise, Idaho.
Well, you're clear of this hurricane we keep talking about.
Yeah, we're pretty clear of everything but lots of fires. So it's kind of like hell over here.
RJ, give us a little bit of background on how you got started in your writing career and when you first got published.
Well, I first got started writing a long time ago. When I was in high school, or actually middle school, I wanted to play basketball. I was not very good. So I ended up, because all my friends played, I ended up deciding that I would be the stat keeper. And after the games, I was from a small town in South Carolina. We had a daily newspaper there. And after all the games, everybody wanted the stats. I had to call in the stats, and then I would read what the guys wrote from my stats that I called in. So I decided I would try it myself. So they let me start doing that. And then a couple years later, they were looking for some help. And I, like, for Friday night football, covering games. And my dad told me that I could, when I realized I wasn't going to be a Major League Baseball pitcher for the Atlanta Braves, he said, next best thing would be...
There's still time. There's still time. No, there's not. They just haven't called you yet. Don't worry.
Don't give up on your dreams, man.
Yeah, there's no Disney movie coming for me. There's no chance. At that point, I was still playing baseball, but I started working for the newspaper and covering games on Friday nights, writing obituaries, anything I could to write. And then went off to college, got a job at the Athens newspaper at the university when I was attending the University of Georgia, started writing from there and just kind of took off writing. And then at some point when I started writing nonfiction books and kind of ghostwriting and kind of, moving from journalism to more long form. But it still never considered fiction until I had a friend here in Boise who was doing it. And right as the time when the ebook boom was happening. And I was like, oh, I should try that. And I thought it'd be a challenge just so I could do it. So my first book I wrote, we had just had a baby. And every night when my wife got up to feed, I would feed the baby. I would get up and start writing. So it took me 9 months to write my first book. And it kind of got addictive after that. I loved it. So fun.
That's awesome. Well, and you have a new release that comes out today when we're recording this, correct? Yeah. So you want to, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Terminal Threat is the second book in a Garrett Knox series that I'm writing with Athon Thrills. So it's kind of a fun book.
That's awesome. And how many series do you have right now then?
Currently going, I think I have 4 series that are currently going, and one that's coming to an end. And then I've got another one that I'm starting next year with Incubator Books that I'm really excited about, which has been a fun process working with a whole team of guys over there that kind of crafting the story and helping me, which is a lot of fun for, if you're mostly writing self-publishing books, you may not have that kind of input, but it's pretty fun pros helping you out.
That leads us into what's going to be one of my first questions is, when I started looking through your catalog, I'm like, okay, he's got all these series. And I go, which ones have ended? And like none of them had ended. It's like you're still writing every one. How on earth do you prioritize and schedule which one comes out next? And how do you do pre-orders when you release the previous one? All the things. Tell us all the things. How do you do it? It looks like it would be with 2 series, I disappeared down a rabbit hole. So,
well, I kind of try to each series. I do have some series that have ended. My Brady Hawk series, which was my longest running series, it's got 21 books in it. And I was going to end that series. Like I wanted to end it. And then this was during 2020. And I had writers, I had a whole plan how I was going to kill Brady Hawk. It was going to, he's going to save the day. Kind of like the James Bond end of Daniel Craig or whatever, So I was like, okay, I'll have him do that. And that'll be great. I'll be able to end it. And then I had writers start writing me like, 2020 has sucked. You better not kill off Brady Hawk. And then I started getting more and more. I was like, okay, these people do not want me to kill Brady Hawk. And this messes with my plans. But I still was like, I still want to end the series. I want to do something else. Then people were like, I had more readers start writing me saying, I said, what kind of series would you like next? I'm thinking about writing some new series. And I just put as an option more Brady Hawk. And that was like the overwhelming favorite. Everybody wanted more Brady. I was like, great.
Gotta have more Brady Hawk.
Right, more Brady Hawk. So I decided I would just reboot the series like 5 years later. It kind of had a natural break at the end of that first series. But yeah, I have ended some of my series, but you're right. I have a lot going on. I try to keep track of them. The series that are selling better are the ones that I write more of, which right now is the Phoenix Chronicles, which is the reboot of Brady Hawk. I try to write 3 of those a year. And then the other ones, once they're kind of established, I slow down to 1 to 2 a year and kind of prioritize that way. So some of them are labor of love series. Some of them, that they don't sell as well, but I have more fun writing them. And for my own mental health, I'm writing these.
Those are important too. Yeah, we have to all have those. So I've got just a quick question. Like that's a lot of books. So if you're doing 3 in the Phoenix series and you have...
Yeah, I was doing the math as well. I'm like, oh, there's 3. There's 1 or 2 there.
I was like, okay, that's a lot. So I want to know, like, what is your writing routine then? What do you do? Because you have some heavy research, first of all, that goes into some of that. I know we talked about you've come to Memphis a couple of times to do some research, so I know you're into that. So how do you balance your time says the man over here who struggles to fall down a rabbit hole because Nick sends me something. I'm like, oh, let me look into that. So,
I mean, it takes a lot of discipline. I mean, for one, and I think.
Oh, okay, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm done. Discipline. It doesn't write itself. I'm just waiting for somebody to.
It doesn't. Well, there is a thing for that, but we don't want to talk about that, do we? The way I've kind of structured my day is I'll spend like the morning writing, and then the afternoon doing research, editing, marketing, that sort of thing. But I do write fast, and I think part of that is after working in newspapers, where you have to write fast. I mean, I still write for the Associated Press. I cover Boise State athletics here. And so, I mean, when a game ends, I have 5 minutes to turn in a 350-word story. Now, I mean, kind of sometimes like this weekend when they blow out the team, I can kind of have a lot of that written ahead of time, but you still have to write fast. And then 30 minutes later, they expect, a 500 or 600 word piece that should be turned in and edited and, with catchy phrases, lots of color, lots of scene setting and things like that, which are easy for me, but it's a lot of practice. So that helps me do that. But I try to write, I think right now I'm doing about 8 to 9 books a year, somewhere around that. So when I'm writing right now, my target is somewhere between 80 to 95, 100,000 words per book. So if I'm doing in a 4-week span, if I'm writing 2 to 3 chapters a day, some days 2, some days 3, depending on the length or whatever, I can still write and then have time in the afternoon to do other, whatever I need to do. Go get a haircut, sometimes, or do research, whatever it is. I mean, that's how it is. Now, sometimes I will take a break. Like when I was out in Memphis, I went out there, for like 3 or 4 days and set all that up so I could just do intense research, which is also a lot of fun. And for me, I almost find that more fun.
Let's expand on that and talk about the research, because I mean, the books you're writing, they're complex. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of layers. You're dealing with a lot of military and government departments and what have you that you kind of have to get. I mean, you can invent some stuff, but generally you've got to get these details right. So how does that balance out in terms of research time versus writing time? I mean, you say you kind of do it in the afternoon, and you're traveling to places and locations. How much time do you truly spend doing that research?
I mean, it's hard to quantify just because a lot of it I do, like I've made friends with people here for whatever reason. We have a lot of former special ops guys here and that I hang out with, and I can either go to lunch with them and drill them for all kinds of things, like, okay, walk me through, you're going to do a halo jump, walk me through that, or if you're going to do a jump from 30,000 feet into the jungle, what happens? Like, tell me what it's like, everything. Guys that are in the Arctic, what's it like, using weaponry in the Arctic? Do the guns freeze? Yes, they freeze. Okay. Like, how often does that happen? Things like that, things you have to think of. Because when and sometimes I'll give them a section and say, hey, read this. Tell me what you think. Even recently in one of my novels, I had a section. It was just a kind of a scene setter to show the chaos of this entire computer system breaking down and the effect that it was having on everywhere. So I had the scene with the air traffic controller, and I wanted all my dialogue to be accurate, like as far as between the controller and the pilot. So my brother's a pilot. I call, I'm texting him and then back and forth. And then I call him when he lands and I'm like, hey, I got, tell me this. If you're flying into LaGuardia, like I get very specific. I'm going to LaGuardia. What are you saying? Like, how do you go in and when do you get handed off to this traffic controller? There's 3 traffic controllers that you're talking to, all those details. And then when I get done, just because some of that stuff even gets lost in translation, I send him a passage and say, look at this and tell me where I'm right and where I'm wrong. Like, even if you're using shorthand language normally, don't give me what you're supposed to say. Tell me what you actually say. So if somebody reads it, they know. So it's kind of an ongoing thing for me. Like the weapons, I can just do, some short research on. And then I do have people, I actually have some people that were in CIA, kind of behind the scenes type stuff that are my readers and in reader groups. And they'll tell me like, no, this is completely wrong. You would never do this. And then sometimes they tell me this is what it was like. And then I still get people like, oh, that's implausible. That would never happen.
Yeah. Don't you love that when you write something that's absolutely accurate and someone did this or you did it or you were there and you get there, go, oh, there's no way they.
Yeah, I know. one of the things that, I remember when I first started writing, I was very meticulous about it. Just as a journalist, you know, kind of my background, you have to get things right. Now, I don't know if that's still the state of journalism today, but when I was in journalism a long time ago, that's right, I had to get it right. So I had this one of my books in my very first series, the Cal Murphy series. I had it was a murder in a national forest, and had the FBI investigating because they actually investigated that. And then one of these people, a reader jumped on, no, there's, in the reviews, this is ridiculous. Like, who does this research? How does he not know? The FBI doesn't investigate murders. I'm like, they don't, except when they're in a national park or national forest. Like, that's the jurisdiction. So anyway, that stuff, I can find that a little frustrating, but I've learned not to worry about it. And
to let it go.
You know what? I don't even read my reviews anymore because they just make me feel like,
Well, I typically don't, but sometimes I will. Like, if I feel, especially if I see it's getting lower reviews, sometimes I'll get some helpful hints from people, but as a general rule for my sanity, no, don't read it.
I tell people, especially new authors who are just review hungry, I'm like, you could drive yourself nuts trying to read reviews, praying that you're going to get a new review. So it's just, for my own sense of sanity, I'll go back and check them and I'll use them for blurbs or, and see, like you said, oh, is there a problem? Is there a reason that the stars are going down a little bit? And then I'll kind of see what people complain about so I can fix it. But yeah, for my own sanity, as I've gotten to be more established, I feel better about myself. So
yeah, you get thicker skinned as you go along too. You get to learn to brush it off.
Plus, Nick will send me the bad reviews and say, haha, look at this one about your book. And
yeah. Hey, bummer, dude. Look what they wrote. Look what I wrote. They wrote about you.
I also don't like to read it because sometimes it can make me feel like I'm better than I know I am. So
that's the other thing.
No, that's true too.
You get stuck reading the 5 stars. Yeah, you keep reading the 5 stars. You're like, hey, how much you might be good at this.
That's also sometimes I feel like the other way. There's some people I don't want to read because I'm worried that I will feel like I'm just such a crappy writer that I shouldn't be even competing. I don't have imposter syndrome, but I feel like if I read some of these people, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I sure should have it. So
back on the research, because I'm fascinated by this, and because I do a lot of research too, and we all have our different ways of doing it. So do you do it before you start writing? Are you a plotter or a pantser? Let's answer that question.
Okay, yeah. First of all, I'm very much a plotter. And now when some of these books, and I guess I have to qualify that by saying I'm a plotter, but then at the same time, I'll plot out my book, but I'm not afraid to pants in the middle of it. I was going this way, but it's no, it's way better to go this way or have something happen to the character. So when it comes to research, I kind of have an idea about what I want and how I'm going to do it. Now, this will be an interesting story for you, but I have a book that I wrote called Seeds of War, which I had this idea about in one of my James Flynn series about this character who was going to investigate this conspiracy in Svalbard about these seeds disappearing, heirloom seeds disappearing, and creating a famine so that one country could, with all the resources they had, could begin to control kind of the food market, which was, in my story, it was going to be Russia with the wheat. That's kind of what I came up with. But they would try to get rid of all the other things so that wheat was the substitute. That was my plan. I was like, this would be a kind of a fun, global international thriller type thing.
He means fun in the sense of writing about it, not actually if somebody did that. Just to quantify.
Worldwide famine is always hilarious.
Yes. It's just, I was like, don't want this to happen. So anyway, I did my research. I started with my research and I was like, the first thing I wanted to do is I have to go to the Arctic because that's, you can talk to people about it, but I really wanted to feel it. What's it like to be there? And I went in February where you're getting 5 hours of sunlight a day. And I had been watching, there's a show for a while that took place in the Arctic it was just fantastic. And I was like, in Svalbard. It had everything there. And I was like, I got to watch this show. So I was like, I got to go there, even though they were filming that show in Iceland. But it was very, very close. Once I got there, I was like, they nailed it. So anyway, I went there. I was doing all the research. I was dog sledding, all the things that I was going to do in the book. I went snowmobiling. We wandered out in the wilderness at some point without a rifle. And which you have to have a rifle when you leave the city limits. We're borderline where we shouldn't have been without a rifle. They're like, a polar bear could come over the ridge at any moment and eat you, that kind of thing. But that was kind of, for me, it was thrilling. I was like, maybe I could get eaten, what is this like? I'm terrified. What if one does come bounding over? There's caribou all around us. He's looking for a snack. We're the only thing between him and this herd of reindeer just walking around.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't run as fast as they do.
Well, that's why I took my friend with me. Now, I'm a little
That's why I go everywhere with Doug.
I was going to say, that's what they say when you're diving. If you come across a shark, you just stab your buddy and swim off. So,
yes. So anyway, all that stuff, that gave me some basis for it. But then, and then I went to the real reason I was going there. I also wanted to see the seed vault, which is really cool. If you want to look up something really fascinating, go down a rabbit hole, Doug. So anyway, so that was kind of my idea. Okay. So I went there, I had the scene, kind of the climax of what's going to happen. And I wanted to see, if the guy could make it down the hill to the port, down the slope on a snowmobile, what it would be like, just kind of be there and visualize it and see what it was like, which was really cool. And then when I got back, though, some of the elements of my story I still need to do research on. So I kind of am starting to form the basis of the story. And I'm like, okay, how would I, if I'm going to get rid of the corn, how do I do it? And I start talking I have a friend of mine who sells corn seed. He's works for DeKalb. And I start talking to him about it. And then he was like, you probably, I found out that they coated these seeds, and it was real interesting, how they did it. And if they don't coat the seeds, they could, it'd be easy for them to not produce any crop. So I'm thinking about the seed coating. And then I was like, I need to talk to a corn geneticist. And so I call Iowa State and get a hold of one of their professors. So I'm talking to him. He's like the lead corn agronomist, or I don't even know what his title was, but he was like the head colonel. I don't know, for lack of a better.
No,
he did. Hey, I have to say that was a little corny.
Yeah, thank you. That was good. All right, you got a good ear for that.
You're doing great. Yeah, you're popping right now. That's all.
That was a beauty. Keep going. Keep it going.
All right. So anyway, I'm talking to this guy, and he admits to me, because I'm trying to tell him my idea for how this would happen. He admits to me that he works kind of on a committee with the Homeland Security about this very issue. And I was like, oh, well, this guy's perfect to bounce these ideas off of. And so I'm telling him my idea, and suddenly the conversation is brought to an abrupt halt. He goes, good luck with your book, click, and hung up the phone. And I was like, oh, I think I just figured out how it would be done. And so I had to change. I actually was like, I can't be responsible for bringing down, this thing. And so I was like, I'm not going to do this. I actually changed the way that I put the story together, because I thought maybe I figured this out. Now, what I later found out, or what I also found out later, this is just crazy when you think about that. This is how our country deals with these kind of issues. They got this guy in Iowa working on how do we keep corn seeds safe and other things. I once interviewed, now I'm drawing a blank here. Okay. I interviewed Chuck Norris. Why I'm drawing a blank? Chuck Norris.
The fact that you forget Chuck Norris's name is probably not a good omen for you. He's going to pop up behind you right now.
We have Chuck Norris on the show. We've made it. We have a Chuck Norris reference.
Chuck Norris, yeah, whatever. So Chuck Norris, so I'm interviewing Chuck Norris, and he tells me a story. This is like how as far as Homeland Security goes. He told me that he had just finished shooting and was ready to release a Sunday night made-for-television movie that was going to come out at the end of September in 2001 about guys stealing airplanes and crashing them into buildings. And he said after that happened, the Homeland Security began meeting with him to discuss ways and ideas that he had come up with for how terrorists could get into the country. He said every 18 months, 2 years, a couple guys from Homeland Security would show up at his house, take him to dinner, and ask him questions. What have you thought of, Chuck?
So wait a minute. What I hear is Chuck Norris really is a line of defense for our country. Is that what? Breaking news here, dude, man. That's insane.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I just thought about, as I was doing it, I was like, you do this research and you think about things. And as authors, we come up with crazy ideas sometimes, like, could this work? And I'm always trying to be as plausible as possible. I know it's not completely plausible. And a lot of my stuff, there may be elements in it that just it's fantastical. I think most of us know if we actually wrote James Bond or Mission Impossible books, people would skewer them like, this is ridiculous. But we love it on the big screen. So, but anyway, that is, for as far as research goes, that's kind of stuff I do. And, I get into way down in the weeds and try to figure out stuff so that the story runs smoothly, and that implausibility doesn't really distract the reader too much.
So talking about how these current affairs and everything, how do you keep up with the current affairs? I mean, what may be an ally this year, next year could be an enemy. We don't know what's changing. Also, the geopolitics are in flux so much that it's got to be tough to keep up with that for your books.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a news hound, even though I've been out of full-time writing for journalism for well over 20 years, but I'm always fascinated by it. So, I read different people, different articles, to try to get an idea for, what might happen. And then my dad, who's, I would say, a hobbyist conspiracy theorist, he'll send me, hey, have you looked at this? Can you believe it? He's got more time than I do since he's retired, but I was like, yeah, that's a cool one, Dad. Or sometimes I'm like, okay, really? But there's a few of them.
I can't imagine where he finds fodder for that these days.
That's some great information. You just have to get your dad to start generating ideas and be like, all right, conspiracy theory. Let's run with that as a next plot.
He's great for that. He has all kinds of ideas, and he's a fantastic storyteller, which is kind of where I got my love for storytelling. He would be great at it. He just he's too distracted to finish. He's probably sent me the beginning of 3 or 4 novels that I'm like, these are great, Dad. You should write these, and then I'm going fishing, So
he's like, I'm retired.
Something that Doug was touching on there. So the current event and things changed and that. Do you bear that in mind? I'm going to set it in this country here, and especially in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. Sometimes some of those countries, the political environment moves around, and as an ally, it moves around. Are you conscious of that when you're placing your stories, or you don't worry about it and figure it's going to come around in a circle at some point?
I guess I am conscious of it. I mean, I'm looking and see this is a place where things could really go south quick. I also talk to, like I said, I have all these guys, these operators that I've talked to, and they will tell me you could say anything here and it's believable because you never would believe what would happen in this place, or this country, or, that's where all the seedy stuff takes place. It's completely lawless. Set your stuff here or whatever. So I get some ideas from there, but I don't worry too much about it. The life of these books, I don't know how long, 10 or 15 years, I don't know how much it's really going to change because there's so much corruption in a lot of these places. The name of the dictator may change, but it's still corrupt. So
it's still corrupt. Yeah.
I don't see Russia turning into the good guy anytime soon.
Right,
let's hope not. They make the best bad guys. We went for several years where they were not the bad guy, and now they're back.
It was boring.
We're back to some good bad guys with Russia now. So yeah, I don't want them to take power or anything, but
right.
I'm always looking for a good bad guy.
So I have a question for you. So you have a newer tropical setting series, which is kind of in our neck of the woods with what we do, which is great. And you got the second book coming out next year, I believe, in that series. So that's super. So that, from what I saw, is the furthest outlier in terms of genre of the stuff you're writing. So most of it is very much in the same genre and thereabouts. Marketing wise, you're big enough where are you finding a lot of success basically marketing against your other series and promoting your series against your other series? Or is it better to go outside of that and go with some of the comps in your genres?
Well, I think the way I did it, when I wasn't I just sat down and I went, okay, I'm gonna come up with a tropical thriller, brand new. What I did was I took probably one of my most beloved kind of secondary characters in the Brady Hawk series, which was J.D. Blunt is the character's name. He's the head of their, secret kind of clandestine covert, whatever, ops group. And he's a former senator and he's no nonsense. And I named him J.D. Blunt because this is his character. It's on the nose. He says what he's thinking. So I'm thinking and when I was thinking of dreaming him up, I was a more serious J.D. Hogg, He has a cigar. He doesn't smoke it. He's always chewing a cigar. So I was something different. But he just says what's on his mind. He's just that kind of character. And a lot of people like him. One of my early on in the series, I had hopefully this won't ruin it for people, but I had him fake his death. And my narrator was livid. He was like, how could you do that? That's my favorite character to voice, And I was like, just simmer down and read book 3. Okay. I don't just chill out. I've already scripted this out. So he was really mad, but he loves, that character doing his voice. So when I was like tropical thriller, I like reading tropical thrillers. I think they're fun. I think it's because a lot of days I just wish I was in Florida.
Not today.
Not today.
Today is one of the
Not
few
today,
days I'm like, I don't want to. Yeah, Milton is bearing down on Florida. I'm like, no, not today. I'm good.
I know, and and we got to think about all our friends that are down there. But my in-laws have a place down in Naples, and so whenever I go down there, I'm like, just feel the breeze, feel the sand. I'm like we go out in the boat. I'm just like, I just love this place, And then I think I've read enough books, and then I watch any show that's set in, South Florida. I mean, it'd be Miami or even, Tampa, any of those areas down there, the Keys. I just love it. I mean, I can't get enough of it. Have loved that, kind of that setting for books for a long time. So instead of just like, I'm going to start from scratch, I said, if I'm going to write a tropical thriller, let's do it with J.D. Blunt, who's retired. He's kind of moved down to the Caribbean. So I draw in people that are, into the character already, and they don't care. They're just like, J.D. Blunt's so fun. They're like, he says what I wish I could say. Then we've got a whole new, even if you haven't read the series, it doesn't matter, because the character's new to you. Yeah. So that's how I approach doing that.
We have one more question. Well, we have two more questions. But first question we ask everybody, and I honestly think this is like, what is your author superpower? And I'm going to guess, because you've already referenced two awesome 80s things, so it's got to be all 80s related, because we have J.D. Hogg and Chuck Norris on our show at one time. But seriously, though, what would you consider to be your superpower as an author and in your business, or even in your writing?
I think what I do right, and this is just me personally, but like the stories that I want to tell, I do want to entertain people, first and foremost with my writing. But more than anything, I feel like we live in a dark world. There's just a lot of darkness and a lot of things. And I want to have a character that's noble, so I write noble characters. I don't like it's just the bad guy that's good. We have to root for the guy, but he's really super horrible. Doesn't mean my characters aren't flawed, because they are. It'd be totally boring if they weren't flawed. But they still, at their heart of what they want to do is the right thing. They're in it for the right reason. I feel like that's, I don't know, refreshing, I think, for a lot of readers. They like that stuff. So, and I like to read it. I don't like to read about some guy that would, kill 3 people just because he can, even though you're still following him wherever he's going. I don't know. That's just me.
I think that's great. Yeah, we could definitely do with some people doing lots of things at the moment and doing them for the right reason instead of these people that are doing them for the wrong reasons. So I think that's really good. All right, get that wheel out, Doug. Spin that baby.
Let's go for it. There's big money here. Big money.
No money. Just to slide that in. There's no money. Yeah.
Okay, if you can only listen to one album for the rest of your life, what is that one album going to be?
Is it playing on repeat, or can I choose to when to put it on? Because that would make a difference too.
Yeah, I would assume that you could stop. Let's say you could stop it and choose.
Yeah. But the only music you can
listen to is this. Yes,
is that one album.
Well, it's a toss-up. So, gosh, probably it's between 2 Sting albums. So good for your 80s. It's either Fields of Gold or Soul Cages. Either one of those. I'll tell you my story about Sting when he was with the Police. So I used to live a long time ago in the faraway land of England.
No one else here has ever heard of that place.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're from Memphis, Doug. You don't even know where that is.
I don't know. I've never heard of it. So yeah, I hear they talk funny over there is all I know.
Just a little bit. When I was a wee lad, I used to go to school there and he used to have a strong accent.
No, even Nick doesn't have a strong accent.
I know, that's better than mine.
I was going to say.
My teachers didn't know that my parents were Yanks. So, serious, true story. Anyway, but I was very literal when I was a kid. And I remember one night, this was at the height of the Police before Sting had branched off. And my parents were going out for a night on the town, and the babysitter comes over and she has a bunch of vinyls with her, records. And she comes in and she talks to us about what we're going to do. And then she says, and then later on, we're going to listen to the Police. And I thought, cool. I was like, what is this? And then she puts on an album, and I kind of sat there and I was like, I don't hear any sirens or anything.
Waiting for the sirens, yeah.
I was like, I don't understand. And then
And it was
I can't hear it, So I put my ear down right near the turntable to hear. I was like, it's got to be the police. I just don't hear it. And she's like, do you like the police? I was like, I don't hear the police. And she's like, what? I did get it because I was just too literal. But that's the first time. And I'm not kidding. That went in and out of my mental, my memory bank. And it wasn't until years later that I was like listening to Sting. And then my friend goes, yeah, Sting used to be in police. And I was like, oh no. Like it would just hit me like
dawned on you once.
I get it.
Wait till you find out that Guns N' Roses, you can't hear roses. It's going to be disappointing to you. So. I was listening to Guns N' Roses. I heard the shots, but I don't know what the roses did. So.
Hey, dude, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great, and we'll definitely have to have you back another time.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
We could have kept going for like days with RJ. I was fascinated. I thought I was pretty good on research. I did my tech diving course as much for research for writing as I did for my own pleasure. But he's next level. I mean, flying to the Arctic and doing all that stuff, that's pretty cool. What's been exciting in your world? What are you up to?
Actually, since we got back from NINC, I have just been writing and kind of kept my head down, and that's been about it.
You're on these writing sprints, banging out word count.
Well, some days, not today. I haven't gotten word one in, but yeah, some days sprints have really helped, and I think it helps. Like if sometimes our friend Drew and I will do them online, and we'll 20 minutes, bam, and see who gets the most words. It's not like it's a real competition, but it's kind of fun to see how you do and get up against it. And it just kind of helps you stay on track because, as you and I both know, we kind of can drop into a rabbit hole real quick. So
I'm a cross between a golden retriever and a squirrel.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, yeah. So it's tough. So how about you, sir? You are getting ready to get pounded by a hurricane. So
there's that. I cannot complain unless it changes direction. We're going to get some very strong winds and a lot of rain, but we are going to be okay. But Central Florida is not looking like it's going to be a happy place. So when this comes out in a week's time, it will have been and gone. And our thoughts are with everybody that's in that path. But yeah, I am in the Keys, and we have my dive event, the AJ Bailey Dive Adventure, this past weekend that went incredibly well. I'm so just blessed to have a group of people that we had 21 people, which we capped it at 20. And when we were at 19, we had two people that wanted to join in. So we made 21. And it came down and spent 2 days diving with us. And we got so lucky with the weather. Literally, this happened between two hurricanes. So,
I was kind of worried you were going to be like stuck there. The visibility was nice.
It was not brilliant for some of the dives, but it was workable, and the seas were pretty friendly considering we didn't have big seas. So it was 1 to 2 foot, most of it. We got on Sunday after we did a mega dive on the Spiegel Grove. Really cool. We were heading back to do a shallow, and the radar did not look friendly, and we got some big rain squalls and the seas were picking up, and we said, you know what, everyone was pretty happy with what we'd done. We just went on in and did our lunch, and then we did this great raffle, give out stuff. So it's a whole kind of thing that we've put together. It's really cool, which I couldn't do without Conch Republic Divers, who Ashley and Dave over there are incredible, and their staff, they're brilliant. So they really helped me put this together. But we do these swag bags, and our sponsors put in stuff for the swag bags. And so we do these event shirts, which came out fantastic. So cool this year. A lot of fun. It was a good time. Lots of smiles, lots of fun. Everyone had a good time, and pretty cool.
You can do it next year then?
I think we will. I think we've rolled the dice 2 years in a row.
Tighten it a little closer to NINC.
Well, we were last year, and if I'd done that this year, we would have had terrible conditions last weekend. So we're looking at dates. So we may either move it back later or do it in the springtime. So we're going to take a look and see, but we'll probably move it a little further away from hurricane season, just not to roll the dice so much anymore. All right. Thanks for joining us on the show, everyone. This was a longer one, but I think hopefully you enjoyed it. We did. It was RJ was fantastic. Check out the show notes for links to our guest information, as well as our books, social media, all that good stuff. And until next time, be cool to each other.
Fair winds and following seas.
You've been listening to the Two Authors podcast with Nicholas Harvey and Douglas Pratt. Subscribe on your favourite platform for alerts on new shows coming every 2 weeks.